I'm Gavin Lennox, and I'm here with Josh Brook, who did OMP 49, and Kiri Rupert, who did OMP 50. So welcome. Thank you for taking the time today to speak with us. Firstly, for the people listening in, could you just tell us a little bit about what your business is and how you got here?
I'm getting eyebrow raises. It's an agricultural business. It's a farming business. It's second generation. My parents built the business. They're immigrants from the Netherlands, and they come here in the early 20s.
Okay.
And through the dairy industry, they worked their way up and got to farm ownership and managed to get enough behind them that they could retire to a dry stock farm. So they retired, in brackets, 20 years ago. But they're still working every day. On our other block, about 5k's from here.
Oh,
so
okay.
super lucky. They're very involved. We bought the stock and plant off them in 2017 and sort of took over management then.
Okay.
And Josh come on board then 2015. 16 was it?
Yep.
So Josh is an engineer.
By trade, yeah.
Where did you train?
So I trained at Scott Jet, building jet boats.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Interesting.
So, yeah. Bit of a different
The
job.
mechanical engineer, not the smart engineer. I always forget to say that.
Yeah, it's a practical engineer.
Yeah, there's a lot of different types.
Yeah. So yeah, I was there, and then once we had our first child, Liam, I come on board here.
Oh, right.
And,
Great.
Yeah, and got involved, and here we are today.
So you've already been involved since 2016. You bought the business out in 2017. What do you think your highlight has been in that journey over the last 5 to 6 years?
Probably purchasing our own block as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we did that in 2019.
And how big is a block? Being a city person, I don't know, a block isn't, a few hundred metres by a few hundred metres.
212 hectares.
Okay.
So metre wise is about 2.12 million square metres. So yeah, that was a big highlight. That was really cool to get that.
Yep. And that's obviously nearby here, right?
Yeah, about 10 k's from here.
Okay.
Over the river. Yeah.
And tell us about how you heard about the Icehouse and what was that connection?
Yeah, well, that sort of coincides with our purchase of Woodbury Downs, our other block.
Mm-hmm.
A bank manager had come across this
Right.
from the
So you were the
BNZ.
BNZ?
Yeah, and he said, hey, there's a business course there. I think you guys would be a good match for it. You should go and have a listen to Gareth. He sold us the dream. And
He's a talker.
Yeah. And they had some really cool agricultural business guys there too.
Great car and with Quigley's.
Yeah, and they're obviously really cool agricultural businesses, which we sort of admired, and so you were like, well, if they can do it, we can do it. So,
good.
Yeah.
And we normally, I know that Liz has a practice of not putting business partners together on the same program. So you did them sequentially. Maybe if I could ask you separately, tell us about your experience on the program.
Yeah.
Start with you, Josh.
It was very interesting. I didn't really know what I was getting into, to be fair. But once I was there, it was quite cool mixing with all the different businesses. There's everything from plumbing to accounting to farming, so it had a really good
Was
range.
that useful? Was that useful talking to other business, or did you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, they all sort of aligned in some respects, didn't they? They all had their own sort of, not issues, but common challenges. Yeah, so that was quite cool, and yet just how, like, straight away how open everyone was, like, right off the bat. It was like, it's quite refreshing.
It is.
You don't have to break down all these little barriers to finally get a bit of information out of them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, because they tend to be quite, I would say, typical Kiwi business owners, and that you wouldn't have think of those people as being open, but I was amazed at how quickly. Was that your experience as well, Kiri?
Yeah, I agree. It was exciting because I come from a probably more agricultural background. I went to Lincoln and sort of, I was going to be a farmer, and so you get used to going to agri things. You go to agri conferences, everything's agri-centric. So it was really exciting to be part of the wider community and not talk about the weather, and realise that actually you're a business person first. I mean, the farming part is sort of just a secondary aspect that you deal with, but it's business at the end of the day, and that was really cool.
No, that's good. So now you've both done the course, and you must have completed yours fairly recently.
November last year.
Right. So have you made any changes based upon what you learned there, or some of the experiences in your business?
Yeah, there definitely has been. There hasn't been like a massive, big, significant change, but there's just been sort of little subtle bits we've brought into it, trying to get sort of standardised systems throughout everything, and probably understanding the people in our business a bit more. That's probably been a big one. Just changes a few management decisions and stuff.
How many folk do you have working with you?
We employ 3 full-time staff and Kiri Experience.
Right, you employ them too?
Yeah. They just get paid in perks. But yeah, and it's sort of just getting a bit more structured around our planning and things like that. We always had these sort of cloudy ideas about what our future would look like, but I guess it's now having quite sort of set and measurable goals, I suppose, and having the tools and the people that we can call, like access to people that we never would have had access to otherwise.
Maybe that leads on to another question, which is often what I hear from alumni is they learn as much from other people on the course than they as much as they do from the facilitators or content providers. Can you recall anything that you really learned from others on the course?
Yeah, I can. I can't remember what block it was, about 4, I think, and I was having a real sort of, I don't know, I was getting down about life, and we sort of felt like the minnows in the room. It felt like everyone was really big, and I was telling a guy my goals, and I said, in 20 years I'd like to be twice as big, our business, and he sort of frowned at me, and he was like, why is that so low? Like, haven't you like mapped out where your growth is and where you would be in 10 years if you stayed on the same range? And he really sort of told me that, you should aim higher. Like, what are you up to? Like, and just sort of put me in my place. So that was a really good learning.
Yeah, I think. And what about you, Josh? Before I throw in my thoughts.
There was nothing ever significant like that I got from Kiri, but yeah, just that sort of after the course is finished, you're having a few beers and unwinding, you get some really good conversations about things. Just in those is really good, mixing with all these different business people.
Do you think you'll keep in touch with them?
Yeah, actually, I was literally replying to an email as you came in.
Oh, really?
And we have got a thing down in Queenstown on the 20th of August. So OMP 49 is all meeting again off our own accord.
That's good. Are you going to go along?
Yeah, I don't think so. I won't cream this time. But our OMP is probably going to be even better because we're going to Nelson, I think, in November. And there's talk of like a 37-bed batch somewhere in the Sounds.
Very nice. And if you were to give one piece of advice to another owner-manager, not necessarily about the Icehouse, but if they were looking at their businesses, and I know they're all going to be different, but there's commonality. What would that be? Have you got any thoughts in that area?
I was thinking about that earlier, and I was looking through my notes, and one stood out for us. We've just been knocked a bit by the flooding, and there's that pretty old quote, but never waste a crisis. And I guess it's all about mindset, and if you look at things in a different perspective, it's often just changes your whole day basically. So that's what I'm sort of taking home.
Yeah, I really like the Peter Irving's Block 1. He sort of said,
David Irving?
David.
Sorry, David.
Anyway, take yourself to 25 years in the future and look back and then sort of plan your steps from there.
It's funny, that one quote, David's been actually living and talking for over 20 years. We had the same comment from Jason Smith, who was on OMP 17, and he runs, or his family owns, is a 121-year-old business down in Invercargill. And that's the one piece of advice that's helped him, map out his future. And now he's not only, his family's obviously an owner of a large department store, H&J Smith, down Invercargill, but also his time with OMP was from the date that they'd just taken on the franchise and the ownership of the Mitre 10 business down in Invercargill and then in Queenstown. So that mapping out the future by looking at what the future will look like and then mapping from that is certainly the advice he took.
Yeah.
Well, look, I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else you wanted to throw in for anyone that is listening in the future?
Oh, say yes to adventure. Just do it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for your time.